Hi everybody, welcome to the dungeon. My name is Robin and today is Lampworking 102.9, the Fantasy Flower Murrini Part 2, the application. Today I'm going to share how I apply the Flower Murrini to a bead. This is the first way I have used this method and it worked great. So I do hope if you're having troubles applying your Murrinis, then this might work for you too. Other than that, the one thing I forgot to mention about the actual application is that when you have the clear glass on top of the Murrini, you want to make sure it's always nice and balanced on top of it the whole time. And you should be good to go from there. So without further ado, let's get right into this. I hope you're all doing safe and well out there. Thanks so much for joining me, and I'll see you next time in the dungeon. Okay, so I'm going to start this out by making the stringer that I will use for the background behind the flowers. And what I'm going to do here is just very gently wave my already pre-made Filigrana white cane into the flame and warm that up a little bit. And then on either side of that, I'm going to add a stripe of double helix atlas. And this is the first time I've used this color. And it is very similar to the double helix Skyron or Skiron that I used in the Magical Endings 101.99 bead. So I'm kind of excited to see how this color is going to turn out. Either way, I'm going to wrap clear all the way around it and very gently pull it out into a nice long stringer. And I do end up using pretty much this whole stringer, so a little bit more just in case is always better in this case. Okay, now I'm going to go ahead and start this bead out with a nice simple background. I'm just going to start out with my black rod and add a little bit on my mandrel, and I'll just keep adding a little bit and a little bit more until I am liking the size or the length of this bead. And anytime I'm going to kind of shift the glass over across the mandrel like this, I always want to make sure the mandrel underneath is nice and hot so I don't get anything, steaming up from the mandrel through the glass and getting it to bubble or anything. So I want to make sure the mandrel is nice and hot, and when the glass is on there, I will very gently roll it out, making sure that I have really nice edges and I'm ready to go to the next step. And that is to use a little bit of silver foil. And I do recommend the silver foil over the silver leaf. It's just thicker, easier to work with, and you just get a better effect overall. So I'm going to roll my glass right onto the silver and kind of burnish it down a little bit so it's really stuck well to the glass. And then to get a nice kind of sparkling background effect, I just want to heat all of that silver in, and there you have it, a little sparkly background. And on top of that, I'm going to go ahead and add my stringer, and I just want to add it nice and kind of wavy around the base. I wanted to give it a more organic feel, so the flowers sitting on top of it had, kind of a nice botanical look to it. And I'm going to use as much of the stringer as I can to fill in all those little gaps. So definitely make as much of the stringer as you can. And then once I'm done adding that, I'm just going to go ahead and heat everything up, start smoothing it down, and again, getting my edges nice and neat before I move on again. So I wanted to give a little bit of a barrier in between the stringer and the Murrini. So what I'm going to do now is just add a coating of clear glass all the way around the bead. And I'm just going to encase it by heating up a little ball of glass and swiping it down my bead and overlapping as I go. And if as you go and swipe down, if there's a little area that didn't quite reach the other bit of clear, then no big deal. Just go ahead and add a little bit more where you need to and keep going. And as always, once we're done encasing, I'm going to spend a few minutes just heating, smoothing, and shaping everything up so we're ready to put on our Murrinis. And I was thinking about how the Murrini, I thought I was using a dark blue, and it turned out I was using a double helix color called Triton. So I made 2 beads. This first one that I made, I will go ahead and reduce every one of these so you'll see the reduction. The other bead in the end does not have the reduction, so you'll see the difference. Either way, this whole sequence I'm bringing to you in real time. So I will very gently heat up the Murrini in the flame, and then I will spot heat where I want it to go. And then I will place the Murrini right into the glass, and then very gently I'm going to reduce that Murrini, but I don't want to melt it at all. The next thing I want to do is get a nice ball of clear glass hot, and really put a generous amount right on top of the Murrini, and then just cast away that top part. And this next bit was one of the better ways that I kind of figured out how to make this all work. And it really is all just heating just the clear glass and allowing that clear glass to gently sink down and melt into the Murrini underneath. So all I'm doing here is just heating only the clear glass, and then it gently will sink down lower and lower and lower on top of the Murrini. And so what's happening underneath is the Murrini is getting, it's kind of getting wider and opening up a little bit because the clear is sinking into it. And once I have a really low domed clear, bit of glass there that's almost to the edge of the bead, that's like at this point right here, this is when I will start to very, very gently press it down. And I am not really using a lot of pressure here. It's very, very gentle. All I am doing is just very gently going around the bead and just flattening ever so gently in around to get that clear glass to get even further out around the Murrini and then down to touch the bead itself. So I'm just heating it up a little bit more. And the more you do this and the slower you go and the more time you take, the flower itself will look like it's kind of opening and blooming, especially when you get to this very end part when the clear glass is really close to the bead itself, and you start to just kind of like right here, just kind of pulling that little bit of clear down around the edge. That's really going to help that flower to open up a little bit more. Either way, take your time when you do this and have a good time doing it. It's a really fascinating process here. A little bit more on the edge there. And we are just about ready to move on to the next one. And this next one, I'm just going to go a little bit faster. So again, I'm just going to heat the Murrini chip up nice and gentle in the flame, or on top of the flame. I'm not in the flame, just riding the top. And then I will stick it into the glass. And here I'm reducing, but if you don't have a reduction color in your Murrini, just skip that part and heat everything up gently. Get your glass nice and hot, and again, put a generous amount of glass right on top of the Murrini before the Murrini even has time to start melting. And then this goes a little bit faster because my Murrini chip was smaller and that clear glass really started to heat up and pull everything down further and further. But again, the only thing I am heating up here is I'm just trying to heat up the clear only. And then once things get into that really low half dome shape, that's when I will start to very gently press just around the edges. I'm never really pressing flat right on top of it. I'm just very gently pulling that clear glass down and around the flower and over it until it's touching the glass underneath. It does take a couple times to give it a try, and like I said, there are many different ways to add the Murrinis depending on what you're going for. It just depends on what you need. And if you have a way of adding the clear glass and making that beautiful Murrini that's different from how I'm doing it, then keep doing what you're doing if it works for you. If it doesn't, you might want to try a variety of different ways to get the clear glass on top. Some people will press immediately, and it looks great for them. It just didn't seem to work out very well for me, but this technique was the one that I found out worked the best for me. So hopefully, if you've been having trouble adding Murrini to your beads, or you just wanted to see an easy way to do it, hopefully this will work for you too. And on this last one, I'm just getting, doing exactly the same thing, and I'm getting to the point where I'm just very gently moving that clear glass around the edges, trying to be really gentle, not to press too hard, because the harder you press, you could very easily blur or shift the Murrini underneath. So you're really just wanting to move the clear. Anyway, here are all of the finished Murrinis on the bead. I think it looks super cool. And what I want to do now is just fill everything in until everything is the same height as the Murrinis. So I'm just adding my clear glass in large dots all the way around it until everything is full. And I'm really getting a lot of glass hot and very gently just pushing it right into those crevices so I trap the least amount of bubbles possible. And I am using a Pt.2 Super Clear. It's my favorite clear, and I really appreciate how it works in the flame. If you have a clear that you prefer more than another one, then use that clear. You always, trust your instincts, use what you like, and if there's something that I can offer, then, hopefully you can incorporate that into your own techniques. So here, once I'm done with one side, I'm just going to very gently pat all of that clear glass down to kind of squeeze everything together and get a nice even profile on everything. And then I'm just going to turn my mandrel around, do the same thing on the other side, heating up my clear, getting a nice big ball hot, and very gently adding it where I need to. Okay, so now that we have all of our clear glass on top of this, all I need to do is heat it up and smooth everything out. And definitely give yourself a little bit of time. Adding each one of those Murrinis took about 3 to 4 minutes each. So that times 6 is a lot of time. So definitely, take your time making your beads, and you'll be happier for it in the long run. Just don't rush yourself. So here I'm just doing my best to, just melt everything in, get it nice and incorporated into the glass. And when I'm ready, I will very gently roll it out back into the shape that I'm looking for. I'm probably going to roll it out one more time, and we will be done with this beautiful Fantasy Flower Murrini bead. And of course, I really enjoyed the way it turned out. I also like the one that was not reduced as well, and I hope you do too. So that is all for this week's demonstration, and I am so glad you're here with me to watch this all go down. And let me know what you think. And on that note, I'll see you guys next time in the dungeon.